And I've just had the blessing of having several mentors and coaches pour into me that helped us develop this system. So I am a part of not only am I a mortgage advisor and help coach loan officers across the country, I get to speak publicly for a program called the Core Training. It is the biggest coaching program in the country for mortgage lenders, and it is third for realtors. So it's a big national coaching program that I got to be a part of. They've poured into me. I've had now 14 mentors or coaches throughout the program in my 7 years in it. And this presentation is just a combination of people pouring into me. And it wouldn't be fair for me to share with this and share all the successes that I've had with budgeting and with getting my finances right without sharing a little pain. So it is always hard for me to say, but a couple things, like I have this fear-based mindset that I've just gotten over, I can truly say, like probably within the last 2 years, okay? I was adopted. I grew up super poor. I remember the pain of being in the government cheese line for not having enough money to put food on the table. I remember the pain of like getting made fun of for that, wearing the same jeans to school every day. I remember that pain of like growing up super poor. Not that my family didn't provide for me, we just didn't have much, right? So I've always had this fear-based mindset with money. And then when I started to make money and got a career, I got out of college and I didn't quite know what to do with myself. I had played baseball in college. I did very well in college, but I just didn't know that next step, right? I got into the mortgage industry, which was a blessing and curse. It was a blessing because it created a career for me that allowed me to do as well as I wanted to do and build my business as big as I wanted to do. But with that initial success came a hard fall. So 12 years ago, I had a couple of bad business deals doing my own mortgage company. I had no love in my life. I had no Christ in my life. And I had this big tumble of debt, depression, partying too much. And I can say it now laughing, like I tried to lead this rapper's lifestyle. Like I was a rap video, like bottle service and, crazy expensive dinners. And as quickly as it came out, it was going out faster, right? There's an episode of like ex-NBA players called Broke. I could be on the version of that in the mortgage industry. So I accrued almost $250,000 in credit card debt, IRS debt, and business debt, right? So I had two choices at that time. Could have declared bankruptcy and moved on, or my mindset was I needed to pay it back and make those wrongs right. So I decided the latter. I got into coaching. I've had people pour into me through a budget. Now, I don't tell this to impress you. I tell it to impress upon you. These are the results. So if you are in a hole, the good news is if you're focused on it, if you don't keep the fear-based mindset, and if you have a plan of attack, you can go after it. So I'm proud to say that I've took that $250,000 in total debt and turned it into almost $4 million in the stock market. And then real estate wealth on top of that. So once again, I don't tell that to brag or impress you. I tell it to impress upon you. This plan works. I coach my clients on it. I coach mortgage lenders across the country. And it's really just a product of people pouring into me. I can also say this program has saved my marriage. When I first got married, I was still in that fear-based mindset. I grabbed my lovely wife, Kristen, and brought her into my world in Chicago. And like she was 24, she was 8 years younger than me, didn't have a job, worked for me for a little bit, but I was super duper controlling with the money. And I know looking back, I was controlling because I was fearful of it all going away and building that bigger hole of debt because I just started working to get out of it and I was embarrassed to share it with her. So our first few years of marriage was me being very controlling with the money, essentially giving her no say. And I can say if I wouldn't had this plan and this budget meeting that her and I do once a month, I'm pretty confident I wouldn't have my 3 lovely girls. I wouldn't have my beautiful wife, and I probably would be divorced because I deserved that, and I deserved her leaving me. Luckily, she stuck around. We've fixed our finances. We have a very strategic and tactical meeting about our finances once a month. So if you take nothing away today, if you and your significant other struggles with the money, I promise having a budget meeting once a month like my wife and I do, and not talking about the money outside of that meeting will change your marriage. It will change your life. So that's what I want to give to you today. And I'm super honored that you took the next hour to learn about your budget and learn about your finances. So this is the 6 steps to financial freedom. I want to show you how to master your personal family budget. I want to help you gain the tools to manage your money. And I want you to see where you're spending it, how much you're spending, how much you're saving, and track your improvements, right? Your improvements might be paying off the debt like it was mine. Be clear, that's a savings. Anytime you can pay off credit card debt, it is a savings. So those are the objectives of today. And once again, I'll open it up to a few questions, and make sure you type your questions in the chat feature. So a little budget Jeopardy. Did you know that many Americans, in fact, up to 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck and have no savings and have debt? So, 2/3 of our country has debt and lives paycheck to paycheck. And I was there not too long ago. So please don't be embarrassed if you are there. The good news is you can get out of it if you work towards it. 50% of our workforce has no retirement or no pension. So half of our country hasn't saved for retirement. You might be there. I was back in 2008, 2009. Did you know when Social Security was first introduced, the life expectancy was 62 years? Now it's in the 80s. If you're going to count on the government to fund your retirement, I believe that is not a good plan. I don't expect my family, my government, I don't want anyone taking care of me at my elder age if I make it. So 62% of Americans retire on less than $10,000 a year. That is poverty level, okay? I don't want to be dependent on people at my old age. I want my wealth to outlast me. People get fearful about that. You don't need to. 55% of Americans say they always or sometimes worry about their money. I promise if you take this budget meeting that my wife and I do and the style that we do it, you will only worry about money once a month once you get it in a good routine with it. 75% of Americans fear they aren't going to save enough money for retirement, right? And then they get fearful about it and they bury their head and don't want to think about it and they do nothing. They get paralyzed by the fear. I can relate. I was there. So those are the things I want to help you with today. If you're 45 years old and you save $100 a month and put it in the stock market and get a 10% return, I'll have some people argue with me. You're not going to get a 10% return over time. Yes, you are. The S&P 500 index, if you put all of your money in there, it has averaged 10% rate of return per year for the history of the stock market. So yes, you can do that. That's where a lot of my money goes, and I will discuss that in a little bit. So if you did that, you're going to have $71,888 saved, okay, by age 65. Not enough to retire on. Cool. At age 35, if you start with that same $100, you will have $206,000. So I want to show you what money, the sooner you start, the better off you're going to be. And then if you did the same thing at age 25, save the same $100, you have over $500,000 in the stock market at retirement. So we want money in the stock market, compounding growth. Here's what I believe is the best balance of your finances. 35% of your income should go to living expenses. That's your mortgage, that's your rent, those are your monthly bills, okay? I will do what we call home buying consultations for clients, and I'm always surprised how much people don't know that they spend, right? I shouldn't be surprised because I was there myself, right? But after doing the budget and being on it, for now 12 years, I know where every penny goes every single month. 20% of your income should be saved. Now, people have, in my humble opinion, a false sense of security of what savings is. Here's what I believe savings is. It's the law of money to me. Save 20% of your income every single month, put it in the stock market, and the key, don't touch it, okay? If you're saving money in a savings account to spend later, that is not a savings. That is saving for a future expenditure, which does not apply to saving for retirement or saving for your kids' education. Cool? 10% of your money, according to the Bible, you should tithe, and that should go to some sort of charity. And then Uncle Sam gets 30%. So the way I break this down, a very simple formula I give people is you should try and live your life in thirds. A third of your money should go to living expenses. A third of your money should go into the stock market and giving, those two things combined. And a third of your money should go to Uncle Sam, right? Now, some people are a little bit different in their taxation. I understand that, but these are ratios you should try and live your financial life by. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. But number one, you have to track everything. And you should have three main accounts. You should have a bill-paying checking account. Write this down. You should have a bill-paying checking account. It's only to pay bills with. At the end of the month, that account should say zero, okay? If it says less than zero, you went above your budget. You spent more than you budgeted for. If it is less, good job. You saved some money and you spent less than your budget, okay? And those two things will happen, and I will tell you how to combat them in a second. Number two is you should have a personal savings account, okay? I actually have this as a checking account. So you can have it as a checking account, you can have it as a savings account. And then you should have a money market account or a float account that is 3 months worth of your monthly expenses. Okay? So a big financial mistake I see people make is they'll have this absorbent, ungodly amount in their savings account, right? I don't believe in having less than 3 months of your expenses. I don't believe in having more than 6 months of your expenses. Okay? 3 months isn't enough if something were to happen, and COVID should have taught us all something can happen outside of our control. And above 6 months of your monthly expenses, I think if you own rental property, or if you're self-employed, or if you're a commissioned employee, you should have closer to 6 months of your monthly expenses in a savings account, because you may have fluctuations in your income. Why I don't believe in having more than 6% is your money is deteriorating staying in a savings account. The rate of return that the banks pay you does not keep up with inflation. So your money is actually devaluing over time. It is not working for you. So we want to get to a point where our money is working for us when we're sleeping. We want to get to a point where our money's working for us when we're out for dinner. We want to get to a point where we don't have to work all the hours to make an income. That is where we want to go with this. Cool? So we want to be, so step one is have a budget and have those three accounts. Now, just to give you a little bit more on those three accounts, I'll tell you how my wife and I do it. We have a bill-paying checking account, or your direct deposit goes from this to that account. Okay? We have a bill-paying checking account. So we have an accounts receivable account where all of our payroll comes in. We transfer that when it's time to pay bills to our bill-paying checking account. And then we have a savings account that is tied to that bill-paying checking account with 3 months of our monthly expenses in that account, in case we accidentally spend a little bit more than our budget account had in it. So I hope that makes sense. And if it doesn't, put your questions once again in the chat feature, and I'll have Carrie come on and we will answer them at the end. So that is step one. Have those three accounts. Start working towards tracking your money. Step two is work towards being consumer debt free. Now notice I didn't say mortgage free. I said consumer debt free. That is because the average credit card expense is interest rate, is 17%. Credit card companies also typically charge usage fees. The maximum law for credit card interest is 27%. So you could have a credit card interest rate up to 27%. Once again, the average is 17. And you want to make sure that that ridiculous interest rate is taken care of first before you build that survival account. So we want to take down the debt first, which is what I had to do starting in 2008. And we want to make sure we're tactical about paying that off. Okay. And I'll give you some examples here in a second. So step 2, once again, is working on becoming consumer debt free. The third step of financial freedom is building your survival account. So that savings account, having 3 months of your monthly expenses saved in a liquid savings account. These are, like, I'll see when I plan someone's mortgage, they'll obsess about putting 20% down and it's every penny they have. I will stop them in that because things go wrong when you buy a home. The roof might go wrong. The water heater might go out. You might not properly plan for all the furniture you need to buy. I know that happened with our last house. When we bought a home a little bit bigger than our last one, I was like, crap, I forgot the additional furniture needed. And it was a big expense, right? So there's always things that come up when you buy a home. That's why I don't believe in using every penny you have towards a down payment. So we want to build this survival account. And once again, it should be 3 months of your monthly expenses. Now, most people don't track their money or know what their monthly expenses are. So I'm going to give you a system here at the end that will help you with that. But that's step 3, is building that survival account. So number 1, we want to set up the 3 accounts, right? I do 2 checking accounts, accounts receivable, accounts payable. That's where my money goes out, right? And then a savings account that's tied to my bill paying checking account that has my survival number in it. The second thing we want to do is work on being consumer debt free. Those are credit cards and some student loans, some installment loans. We have to monitor what those interest rates are, right? The thing why credit cards are the worst is they are compounding interest. You typically don't even make the interest payment on the credit card, and then interest accrues and it compounds, and it's compounding interest. Installment loans have simple interest. It's a principal balance to pay down your loan, and it's a interest amount, and you know how much you're being charged with interest. That's why installment loans, student loans, aren't as bad as credit cards, right? But some of those interest rates are getting near it. So step 3 is we want to build this survival account. Now, step 4, we want to make sure we're maximizing our monthly savings in a tax-free retirement account. So this is, hey, I got the account set up. I've paid off debt. I now have built my 3 months of monthly expenses. Step 4 is we want to start taking care of the few tax deductions that we have as U.S. citizens. So you can have a Roth IRA. You can have a traditional IRA, right? A traditional IRA allows you to contribute $6,000. That money is tax-free. Now, I prefer the tax-free IRAs, so I want my money to go in there tax-free. Roth, you've already been taxed on the money and then it goes in there. But you access it at retirement tax-free, right? So I would rather avoid the taxes now for when I'm rich at retirement. I can make strategic decisions based off of the tax bill at that time when I'm retired of where I'm going to pull the money from. I hope that makes sense, right? So I like taking the pre-tax now, 401ks, traditional IRAs. A Roth IRA is post-tax, meaning you've already paid money on the taxes. Cool. And then if you're self-employed, you get the best. You get the SEP, self-employed pension fund. You can put up to $57,000 tax-free. Cool. These are the number 1 best investments in the world. Now, I argue with hedge fund guys. I argue with some financial advisors. My rule is this, and I don't mean this to sound conceited. I will listen to the person with more money in investments than me. I believe in the bigger pile theory. And if they have more money in investments than me, I'm going to listen to them pretty close, right? There are a lot of talking heads out there, and when I peel back the onion, they just don't have what they claim to have, right? So that's how I chose my financial advisor. He had to show me his personal investments. He had to show me his tax return. I had to know that he made more than me and had more money in the bank to guide my finances. Now that's a personal choice, but I just wanted to let you know how I choose my financial advisor. And some of them I get into an argument about. I believe the number one best investment in the world is your 401k. Now remember I said at the end, you can get a 10% return by just putting it in an S&P 500 index. That's what I do. My whole 401k is in an S&P 500 index. My traditional IRA is in an S&P 500 index. Okay, I get into individual stocks above and beyond that. So I believe the 401k is the best investment. Money goes in tax-free. You can control your fund. I choose the S&P 500 index. And number three, you usually get free money from your employer. So you want to take advantage of as much free money as possible. So you get money tax-free, or you put money in there tax-free. You get money from your employer typically in a match tax-free, right? And you can control the investment. That's why I like 401ks. I think it's a mistake when people invest outside of their 401k before they've maxed out their 401k. My personal opinion, I feel it's a mistake. So work everything in step 4 to try and maximize your 401k. Now, if you have a financial advisor or an insurance broker telling you different, I hate to say it, but many of them probably have personal motivation to get the commission and to make a sale other than guide you correctly. I don't in this. I'm not a financial advisor. I used to be one, but I was broke when I was a financial advisor. So I probably shouldn't have been advising anyone on their finances. And I found that a lot of them are. Like I was. Cool. So be cautious who you work with. My requirements, once again, I got to see your tax return. I got to see your personal investments. If you're not willing to share it with me, I'm not willing to trust you with my biggest asset, which is my time and my money and the legacy I want to leave on for my daughters and their kids, right? That's super duper important to me. We all work to make money. I think it's kind of foolish to not be super guarded of what we accumulate. Cool. So step 4, once again, maximize those retirement savings. Step number 5, invest in the stock market. So I do these in steps, right? Once you've maxed out your 401k, you want to get into the stock market. Okay, once again, I don't tell these things to you to brag or impress you. I tell them to impress upon you what's possible, right? I didn't know these things were possible because no one had showed them to me until my mentors showed them to me. Like today, I made $10,000 on Nike stock. It's ran up 35% since I started investing it. I got out and I made, it was like a $10,000, $12,000 return on it, right? I've made as much as $35,000 on a single trade. Did that with Zoom on September 1st, right? There was power outages with Zoom. I bought a bunch. It ran up after their second quarter earnings came out. I sold it at that point. So that's what you can do with individual stocks. It is a gamble. I have the luxury of being able to hold on to the stock until it does well. Not everyone has that luxury. So make sure you've maxed out your 401k before you get into the individual stocks. Now, here's how I invest in the stock market. I have 2 accounts. I have my financial advisor or my money manager. He gets a check from me every month without fail. It is right here. It's called dollar cost averaging. I look at that check to him as a bill on my budget. It is a bill. I have to pay it every month. Now, I won't ever touch that money. So that's 20% of my income and never touch it. That goes to my financial advisor. Where I talked about the plays with Nike and Zoom, that is only, so if I'm saving 20% of my monthly income, that's only 10% of that 20%, right? So if I made $10,000 in a month and I'm investing $2,000, right? I'm only putting $400 in my individual stock account. That's my E-Trade account. So I play around in there and it's more money I can gamble, right? That's how I look at it. It's like going to the blackjack table, but not as big a gamble. So I like gambling in the stock market, not at the casino. The investing in the market, like I'm not an expert. I'm not following every day. My financial advisor is. They pick some mutual funds. I like a money manager. They use Ball and Gainer, right? So part of the money goes to them. Part of the money goes in my E-Trade. Now I'll tell you how I invest in my E-Trade. I pick 5 companies that I like, know, and trust and use their product, and I invest in them. Zoom, Nike, Amazon. My wife has an Amazon box outside every day. My daughters love Disney. We've watched the new Mulan movie like 5 times. So Disney's a part of mine. And then Apple. I use all Apple products, right? So those are the companies I like. Doesn't mean that they're yours. So part of the money goes in the E-Trade. Part of the money goes to the financial advisor. I look at the money to the financial advisors. That's my retirement. I can't touch it. I will never, ever take from it. I won't take from my 401k. I won't take from that money. Cool. You can pick different mutual funds. I love the S&P 500 index. I love it because all financial advisors and money managers use that as the barometer of their success. Did I beat the S&P? Well, if they're all measuring themselves against that, why not just invest in that and not pay as much in fees? That's the way I look at it. Cool. And then I created a 529 college savings plan. That is a mutual fund that you can invest in for college savings. So you can pick any state's plan. I use the state of Virginia's because their mutual fund is the American Funds, and I love that company. I love what they stand for. I love their longevity. I love their long-term outlook on investing. So step 5 is getting into these areas. If college education planning is important to you, it's usually for a out-of-state institution. I went to a Big Ten school. I went to Iowa. For my daughters to have out-of-state at Iowa, it's about $800 a piece per month to pay for their full education. Now, I'm blessed that I've got myself out of the hole to do that, but I couldn't do that before when I was digging myself out of debt. So you can see this is why this is at step 5, okay? And then the last step, and then I'm going to show you the tools that I use to achieve this. Prepay your mortgage. Okay, so I got to tell you, at these record low rates, I'm doing some mortgages in the mid to high 2s, in the low 3s, almost everyone. It depends on your credit score, how much equity you have, what program you're using, but there's interest rates. When you factor in the tax deductibility, it's like in the low 2s, the cost of the money. So it is crazy. I personally don't believe in paying down my mortgage. Now, you'll have people that argue that, like Dave Ramsey. I just disagree. I'm going to put every penny I have in the stock market. I'm age 43 until I'm 50. Once I turn age 50, I want to get less aggressive in the stock market, and I want to pay down my mortgage, right? So I'll take half of my leftover money to pay down my mortgage, not till age 50, and I'll take half of my money into the stock market, but I'll be less aggressive in the stock market. But since I started out a little late and had that massive amount of debt, I've had to power save in the stock market to get to the point where I shared with you that I'm at. So it does not come easy. I have an 80% mortgage on my home. I have not touched it besides the regular principal balance. I won't till I turn age 50. So shorter term mortgages, if you want to pay off the debt, I think you can get a better return in the stock market over time than a 2% tax deductible interest rate, or I should say 3%. Okay, so that's just the philosophy there. That would be the last thing that I recommend to do. So those are the 6 steps to financial freedom. And I want to be mindful of my time, so I'm halfway through, so I am perfectly on track. So how do you find this money? A lot of you, the money's already there. Okay, it was for me. I was just letting it accumulate in savings accounts. I was letting it sit in my checking account. I wasn't being tactical about paying down my debt, and I was blowing the money on cars, bottle service, and expensive dinners. Now, I was stupid when I was in my mid-20s and late 20s. I thought that's what life was. I'm blessed to have found Christ, found my wife, and created a family because those simple joys just blow away those quick pleasures that I used to chase. So my wife and I sit down and do this once a month. Now, I don't use any automation. I can't. I believe, in my mind, if you automate it and set it and forget it, you're not being tactical about the money. So we have a 1 hour meeting. It is the last Saturday of the month to pay our bills. Okay? So if you saw right here, this is a folder of our bills right now. Okay? I used to get bills in the mail, and when I was in debt, it would stress me out. It would freak me out. I would obsess. I would think about it all the time. Now it's out of sight, out of mind. Our rule in our marriage is we don't talk about money, and we don't open mail besides once a month. Okay? Now that is a discipline, and it took us a while to get there. It did not happen overnight. But what I can tell you is Kristen and I still argue about money. It is contained to an hour-long meeting, and our rule is we cannot finish the meeting until we're both have aired our frustrations, right? So every once in a while we'll be like, oh, I want this. And like, not till the budget meeting, okay? So that is just what's important. I know there's some of our realtors on right now that are either on live or will watch this recording. Let me tell you this. Our industry in real estate fluctuates a lot, right? I've seen so many realtors behind on their taxes. I believe it's because they work like some of them 80 hours a week. I know some of you do it. And then we don't spend an hour a month to take all of that money that we're working so hard for and track it and be strategic and tactical with the money, right? It's crazy. I understand. I used to be there myself. So this form will help you prioritize and achieve a budgeting system. I can't automate it. I got to write it down. It then absorbs in my mind. When I look at a number and I write it down, I believe the Harvard study is you're 65% more likely to remember it. It just sticks in my mind when I use this. So I use an Excel form and type it in, or I print it out and handwrite it. Yes, it's that old school. You're going to fill one out every month. So let me help you with this. What month are we in? It's September. Wow, it's almost October. So my September bills have almost all come. Cool? They are bills we accrue in September, and they are due October 1st. So it's like our electricity usage for October, or for September. I pay that October 1st. So you let all the bills come in. My payroll has come in. My payroll's still sitting in the accounts receivable account. And then we pay the bills once a month, and we talk about it then. We obsess about them during that hour. We find out what we have left over, and we put the money to the different areas. And we do it as a couple and as a partnership, and it has changed our life. So if you start today, you're going to see where all the money goes. I would love to help you in any way that I can. This is the biggest gift I give to my employees. I have an employee that just bought her first home. I got the honor of helping her and her husband get on a budget, getting tactical about that money. It was unbelievable to see them pay off debt, start accumulating money in the stock market, seeing her use her 401k, seeing her buy her first home. It's just the best gift that I'm good at. So I hope you can take this and implement it in your life. Number one is the bills, okay? We got to know what we're paying. So if you have an auto loan, we're putting the balance right here, okay? That is column one. So you need to name the bill, and you need to put the current balance on there, okay? In column two, you're going to write the minimum amount owed, not what you paid. Column two is for the minimum amount you owe, okay? Example, if you have a $5,250 credit card balance, I'm going back to some of the credit card balances I had to pay off. A $5,000, not a $55,000 credit card balance. If you had that balance, you can see right here, that's $5,250, okay? That goes in column one. Now, they decided to pay $100 towards it, okay? That is what the minimum payments are. Excuse me, I said that wrong. Column two is the minimum payment. So their minimum payment on this credit card is $100. So their balance is $5,250. Their credit card minimum is $100, okay? You will not put things in column two that aren't reoccurring, right? So if you take a vacation and drop $8,000, that does not go in column 2. That's a one-time expense. And the cool thing is when you have money left over and you're saving 20% of your income and never touching it and putting it in the stock market, do with the rest what you want, right? If you save 20% of your income and start at age 30, you'll work 30 years, you'll have enough to retire on if you invest it properly. So column 1, once again, balances. Column 2, minimum payments. Now, like I average my electric bill. It's about $200 a month. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. That's what I put in column 2. These are reoccurring numbers, okay? So you're going to include everything, and then you're going to total up column 2 at the bottom. That is your survival number. That's how much it costs you to be you per month, okay? And this person has $7,871. That is their monthly overhead it costs to be them, excluding one-time expenses, okay? Column 3, this is what we actually paid. So this person, once again, on that same credit card had a balance of $5,250. Their minimum payment is $100, right? So first we got to figure out our survival number and total all those up. And then column 3 is what we actually paid per month. So these are where the one-time expenses go, right? You might not always pay $2,100 to pay down that credit card, but that's what you paid this month. You might not always put $2,000 in savings, but that's what you did this month, right? You might not have to fix your car and get new brakes. That cost you $800, but you did this month, right? So the one-time expenses go in this column 3, okay? So always remember to check the space that you're writing. Now this person put out $18,000. Okay, so all the money got distributed out. So I'll tell you how Kristen, my wife, and I do it. She compiles all the bills, okay? She tells me what the bills are. She sets up the automatic payment. If it's not a reoccurring bill, that's the same amount every month. She sends the money out. I write all the totals on the budget, right? And then we total it up at the bottom. And I leave 2 spaces empty. I leave the savings, mine says stock market, and I leave the giving, money that I'm going to give to charity, right? Then we know what we have left over to save and put in the stock market, to give to charity, and maybe there's something we want to do fun. Like right now on our next budget, we had a very good previous month. We'll look at Christmas vacation because we got to get out of our and go rent a house, right? So those are things that you can strategize and agree upon during this meeting. So I hope that helps. Just to review once again, column 1 is the name of the bill and the current balances. Column 2 are the minimum amounts. So think of it like this. COVID happens, you lose your job. This is what I have to pay to survive, okay? We want 3 months of this number in a savings account. So if they put out $7,871, I'm going to make it even for quick math. Say they put out $8,000, I want to see $24,000 in their savings account. So what we'll do once again is we will total up and we will leave savings blank and giving, and then we'll say, hey, do the girls need anything for school? We'll talk and have a conversation of what we want to do with the leftover money, and we'll agree upon it, okay? So that's what happens in column 3. Column 4, this is money you saved. And yes, paying off credit card debt, as I mentioned at the beginning, was a savings. It is a savings, okay? So you'll notice on here, their minimum credit card payment was $250, okay? They paid $4,000. So that's a $3,750 savings. So yes, we want to track your debt being paid off. And that's why we put the balances on column 1, okay? We want to track, we want to pay it down. Here's what I learned at the end of getting out of debt. It's just numbers on a page, right? That debt that I accrued didn't make me any worse person than you. It didn't make me any less of a man, right? I just dug myself a hole, and it was numbers on a page that I needed to work to change, right? Just like the money I've accumulated in the stock market, it doesn't make me any better than anyone with less. I've just focused on it. I've worked on it for 12 years. I've been tactical about the money, and I have focused on it, right? And it's just numbers on a page, and it doesn't make me any better than anyone with less, right? Just like the opposite is the case. So you will track what your savings are. They are anything above and beyond when you're paying off debt, what you had to pay, right? So once again, their minimum payment's $250. They decided to pay $4,000 to pay this credit card down. They've saved $3,750. They put $2,000 in their survival account to make sure they have 3 months of monthly expenses, right? They've decided to put $500 in their money market. Now, the only thing that won't go in column 3 that will go in column 4 is a 401k. We want to track how much you're putting in your 401k in column 4, but it doesn't go in column 3 because the money goes into your 401k before they give you your paycheck. So the money's already taken out. It's not paid to you, right? They automatically take it out. So do not put a 401k in column 3. Everything else you will. If you have a traditional IRA and they pull that money out of your check before you see the check, that would also be the case. If you have a stock purchase program at your company and you're buying your company stock and they allow you to do that pre-tax, you will not put that in column 3. So make sure you write down anything that you put in column 3 has to go in column 4 unless it's pre-tax. Cool. Column 5, these are total paychecks, okay? This is money that you were paid during the month. So my mom still gives me $20 every time I have a birthday, right? It's not increased since inflation, like since I was probably 14, right? She has not inflation adjusted. But that's $20 that I have. That goes in total paychecks. I get paid to speak at some events. That goes into total paychecks. I used to have some rental properties. That rental income came in there, right? Anything is money in, you put in column 5, okay? So always remember that it's the deposits received for the month. So my payroll that I received on September 10th, it's still sitting in my account. Any money I'm paid for anything, for speaking engagements, for coaching, that also comes into my accounts during this time, right? I distribute the money out after I'm paid it on October 1st, okay? So the best way I can tell you how to do this program is start with column 5. I keep it super simple. Once again, I told you I have a checking account that all my money goes in. I just don't commingle money. Everything in goes in that account. Everything out is transferred once we have completed the budget to the bill paying checking account. So I'll say that one more time because a lot of people get confused here. I will look at column 5. That's my accounts receivable checking account. That's where all my direct deposits go. If I get any hard checks, that's the account I deposit them in. I do not pay any bills out of that account. I have a checking account that once we've filled out all of column 3, I transfer that money to the bill paying checking account to cover all of our bills, right? Then there's money left over and I get to distribute that out to charity, to something we want to buy for our girls or for ourselves, and to my financial advisor, right? That is how this works. So here's the magic. Let me go back one slide. The magic is this. Column 5 and column 3 must match. You must do accounting on your money to make sure you are taking every penny you can and put that money to work for you. Money should work for you. You work so hard for the money needs to work for you. Make sure you're doing accounting that every penny is attributed for and every money is out where it needs to go, right? And if you can do it in those perfect ratios of 35% to living expenses, 20% to your financial advisor, 10% to giving, right? And the rest to taxes, that's automatically taken out for most of you. If you can live your life in those ratios, you're going to be well off and you're going to accumulate wealth you never thought that you would have. So here's the fun part. Once you get out of the debt, you can start. The bottom of the form is tracking you accumulating your wealth, right? And once again, you want to save at least 20% of your income. So that would come here, right? And then you just track. And once again, it's numbers on a page. It doesn't make you any better than anybody else. If you're in debt, it doesn't make you less than anyone else. It's just numbers on a page. When you use this system, you can become tactical and strategic with your money. Pay off the debt, invest in the stock market, get into your 401k. You can't do that if you're not focusing on it, or you can't do it well. So have a budget meeting with your significant other or anyone that you are financially codependent with, right? And have a meeting of where the money should go. Live your life in thirds. Try and get to saving 20% of your income and never touching it. And you will have a retirement. You will accumulate wealth. And like my goal now, I want to affect my children's children, right? I had to be lucky enough to be good at baseball to get into college. I wouldn't have been given that opportunity if I wasn't. I want to make sure that my children's children can have something passed down to them. And that's the cool part. Once you start saving, your goal in retirement should be to live off the interest of the pile you have accumulated. And that's what I believe financial health is. And until our country focuses on it, we're always going to be this country of massive debt. So I will open up if we had any questions. I am going to see. I am able, thank you, Rebecca. Good to see you on here. Thank you. We will send it to you. Mike Kastner said he likes paying down the mortgage to eliminate the PMI at the expense of another investment. Would you recommend paying down your PMI? It all depends on the PMI factor. Like PMI used to have, PMI once again for everyone is private mortgage insurance. You pay it typically when you don't put 20% down on your home purchase. I don't believe that you should, it all depends on the premium, right? PMI used to be this big negative thing like, oh my God, it's this horrible thing. It's this exorbitant fee. Luckily, we've had a strong economy for like 10 years now. We've been on this amazing run that our country's never seen economically. And that means people aren't foreclosing on their homes. So when people don't foreclose on those homes, the PMI factor goes way down, and you should have seen that. I always look at things as a return, right? A lot of those PMI factors are less than 1% per year. So I measure that with what I think I can get in the stock market. I use 10% in the stock market. Some years I'm up 24% like last year. Other years like this year, I'm up about 11%. What was it? 3 years ago, we were down like 14%. So you got to ride the highs versus the lows. I think it depends how much money you have to make up. I am just a big believer of the stock market. I'm a big believer. Like credit card companies get rich off of compounding interest. I want to get rich off compounding interest for me. I want to put my money on the stock market where I'm making interest upon my interest, and that ball is rolling. That is what, like, the number one advertiser during the Super Bowl is insurance companies, right? So they put a margin on there for profits and to pay that expense. The number two is credit cards, right? Credit cards are just using compounding interest to make themselves rich. 20% savings includes the 401k. Yes, it absolutely does. If Like for a lot of people, if you make $100,000 a year, you can put about $20,000 in a 401k. That might be all you're able to do, and that's fine. And that will get you to replace your income in retirement if you start by age 30. So you need about a 30-year run of saving 20% of your money into the stock market and never touching it. Hey, Rochelle, how are you? When filling out the budgeting form, I am paying some bills with a credit card. Does that go under the bills or under the credit card? Awesome question. I will tell you, when I was in debt, I had to break out each individual bill I had. Like literally, if we spent $80 at Target, I had a Target line item, right? So it all depends where you're at. I believe if you're consistent with saving 20% of your income every month, like who cares where the rest goes, right? It doesn't really matter that much if you're being smart with that. If you want to blow some money, do it. I put everything, now that I'm disciplined on this form, I put it just all in a credit card like you're probably doing. I want those great miles. I bought the nicest pair of shoes I've ever owned about 2 weeks ago, and they're all off credit card miles, right? So I want those. And if you're disciplined in your finances, like your budget might just have 4 or 5 lines. It might be, hey, my survival number is $8,000 and it goes on a credit card every month, and I'm consistent and I'm responsible and I'm saving 20% of my income. By all means, put it on a credit card. But I'll tell you, when I was in that massive debt, we went as far as putting cash in an envelope for our groceries. And it's like, if that $500 is gone, I don't eat. That's how granular I needed to get on the numbers. Now, I'm proud to say I'm not at that point anymore. We kind of just run the credit card. And gosh, I've been blessed by so many of you to have my business grow and have my income grow. So that's why I feel obligated to do these events to pour in back to you. But great question. I don't break it out anymore. I used to. So it all depends where you're at. Student loans should go on the top of the spreadsheet to pay them down. It is a consistent payment like the cable bill. So when you have money left over, like once again, it's opportunity cost. Hey, I have a 9% student loan and I think I can get 10% in the stock market. So what I advise when I have my students and they're paying off debt, I usually go 50-50, right? Like, hey, put 50% in your savings, put 50% towards those higher interest rate loans. I consider anything higher interest rate above 7% right now. So yes, I would focus on paying off student loans, but what I do is I see people obsess about it and then they don't save and their money's not growing and compounding for them. I think you can do both. And when you're paying off debt, a great tactic that worked for me was starting with the lowest balance. I needed small victories, right? When you're staring $250,000 in debt in the face, you are intimidated. You want to bury your head in the sand. You just want to give up, right? I needed small victories. So I needed to take care of the city card first. That was $1,000 balance, and then cut it up and then move on to a bigger one. So that's how I tackled paying off debt. Putting all of the credit cards to earn points and miles, then pay it off. But just want to see if there's a benefit to seeing the line items. There was for me, like I needed to see where each expense goes. I have to do this for Summit Funding. Like I run our branch in Chicago. I have a P&L every month. We have line items on it. It's just a business budget, right? And sometimes I have to get granular on it and say, why is the phone bill $2,700? I need to see the details of it. So if you're super organized and want to see every detail, by all means. I needed to at first to get comfortable with my actual bills, and it helped me to like eliminate some of the bills, right? I don't need Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, YouTube TV, Napster. I don't need all those services, right? When I see them on the paper, I can look at it and say, do I really need that? Doesn't mean I'm not going to have it. It just means it causes me to think during this hour strategy meeting. Can you go over the 3 account setups again? Yeah, absolutely. Napster, someone's laughing. So Napster took over Rhapsody. I had Rhapsody. I had kids laughing at me the other day. They're like, how old are you? Yes, Napster is a music service. It's a streaming service. And it's not the like old pirating music way. It's a streaming service. That's funny, Rebecca. So the 3 accounts were accounts receivable, checking account. So that's where all my direct deposits go. Money in. So any money I make goes in this account during the month of September. That way, when Kristen, my wife, and I start our budgeting meeting, I can just go on to my banking app and I can fill out column 5. My column 5 just has one number. I don't care where all the money came from. I look at the account and say, okay, that's how much money we have to work with. And I fill out column 5. That is my accounts receivable checking account, or your column 5 account, you can call it, or you could call it your direct deposit account. So I don't pay any bills out of that account. That's just money in. Then I have another checking account that is my bill paying checking account. That should be 0 at the end of the month because all the money should go out. So my financial advisor has access to that. When I say, hey, Jeff, go get your money to invest for me for my retirement, he just goes in there and grabs it. I transfer everything to that account. And then I have the survival number, or the savings account. That's 3 months of your monthly expenses in a savings account. Time for one more question if anyone has it. When filling out the budget in October, is this earnings you report from September? Absolutely. So it's September bills and that are due in October. They're typically due around the 1st. And there does need to be some change sometimes. Like I had bills that were due September 28th. I had to change that. I had to change the due dates. The places will work with you if you prepay it for like a month. So all of my due dates I've moved to the 4th of the month or after, because I know I'm always going to get to my budget and pay my bills by the 4th of the month. So it's a great question. Money from September and bills from September make up your October budget. Okay? So it's bills that accrued this month and that you've been sent in the mail that are due October 1st. And money you've been paid this month. So like my money I receive in September is from August production. So when I close your guys' mortgages, I get paid from August production on September 10th. And then all my other fees trickle in from coaching, public speaking, money that I make off of our business in Chicago. You're so welcome. Gosh, I get humbled a little bit when I see clients on here because it's just amazing that you guys trust me with your mortgage. You trust me with your home purchase. It means the world to me. It's how I've been able to get out of debt. I'm humbled that I get to work with all of you, and thank you for your trust. And just know that any way that I can help you with your finances, including looking at your budget, I get the pleasure of doing this on a national level for people that pay me a lot of money to do it. And I will absolutely do it for any client for free because it's changed my life. It changed my family's name's trajectory. And it's just, I've been through the pain. I know both sides of it, and I'm honored to help you anytime. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope I gave you at least one thing that can help you with your finances. And thank you once again for everything you do for me.